Still we stand. After everything. Cut the noose. Cut the check.
My back for life.
Say my name with respect. Cut the noose. Cut the check. Say my name with respect. How you say you for the people, but you don't buy black? How you still claim the hub, but never been back? All the time on your grind, just suspended in sacks. You want them to take a stand. They ain't sit where you sat. They don't live how we live. They don't be who we be. Over 1 trillion a year. Let's just spend it on we and see. Let's just spend it on you and me. Invest it. So our grands and great grands can be financially free. Put the grants in the hands of the people in need. Plus us own property, and let's own what we eat. And let's train our own people to protect our streets. Ujama, that's the 4th day of Kwanzaa. All 7 days should be NBA sponsored. NFL should treat Kaepernick as a martyr or a starter. Cut a check to George Floyd daughter. That's a start.
Live, laugh, live.
Say my name with respect.
Good afternoon.
Say my name with respect. I was blind, but now I see.
Yes.
I was blind, but now I see. I was blind, but now I see. 1 trillion a year, let's just spend it on we. Spend it on we. 1 trillion a year, let's just spend it on you and me. Spend it on you and me. Spend it on you and me.
Yeah. Buy Black for Life. That's Guapo Suave James. That is our theme song. Yes, we own the rights to that. Check him out. That's a bad boy. But I want to shift because this afternoon, no matter where you are, I have a treat for you. Someone that I call brother. Someone I love and respect. Mr. Franklin McCain. And I just want to welcome you, Frank, for being here. I want to go quickly into your bio and get into doing what it is that we love to do, and that's talk. And let me just start by saying Franklin McCain is currently the Vice President of Community Investment and Impact at the United Way of Greater Greensboro. Frank and his team are responsible for the investment of over $7 million on an annual basis to address human needs facing the Greensboro community. Before joining the United Way, Mr. McCain was employed by Parish Capital Advisors, where he was responsible for overseeing the administration of the Financial Futures Keenan Flagler Youth Institute. Prior to Parish Capital, Frank served as a wealth advisor in the private client groups of Merrill Lynch, UBS Payne Weber, and in those roles, he was responsible for managing the assets of high net worth individuals and corporate clients. Mr. McCain began his career at First Union National Bank, Wachovia. Frank is very active in the Greensboro community, and I know Greensboro is in the house right now. Some of his present and past affiliations include board memberships of the Greensboro Police Foundation, Weatherspoon Museum, Better Business Bureau, International Civil Rights Center and Museum, YMCA, Reading Connections, Greensboro Chamber of Commerce, Greensboro Center City Corporation, and the Greensboro Housing Authority. Additionally, Frank is an elder and a member of the Presbyterian Church of the Cross, C.W. Lawrence, Masonic Lodge, and Sigma Pi Phi and Omega Psi Phi fraternities. I know you love your fraternity, brother. Mr. McCain holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in business from North Carolina A&T University. He is married to the former Vicky Hinton and has 2 children, Taylor, a 2015 graduate of UNC, and Mac, a 2019 graduate of North Carolina State University. Frank cares deeply for his community and takes his role seriously. Someone out there needs me to be their voice today, Frank says. Buy Black for Life, welcome my friend, my brother, Franklin McCain. Frank,
What's up, Jerome?
That's a book. And I know there's so much more you could put into that as well. I already know.
Yes. So thank you so very much for that welcome. I do want to correct two things.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, you referred to my alma mater as North Carolina A&T State University.
Yes, sir.
It is the North Carolina A&T State University.
Bruh. All I'm gonna say is you wrote it in that last.
And secondly, my son did not go to North Carolina State University. He went to North Carolina A&T State.
A&T, my
exactly right. That's no problem.
North Carolina.
No problem at all.
A&T.
No problem at all.
So,
yeah.
Frank,
so thank you for having me, Jerome.
Thank you for being here. I know so much of what you do in the community for our people. You've done amazing things for me. I don't know if you remember helping out my AAU basketball team when we were in a pinch. We needed a hotel in Greensboro, and you got us a hotel that was amazing, where we also got to tour the beauty school that was up there. So I don't know.
Dudley Beauty School.
Yes.
Dudley College and Beauty School. Yes.
Yes, you got me out of a pinch, brother. I couldn't get a hotel for state championships. You came through, so I thank you for that.
No problem.
Welcome. You are an amazing brother. And let's just jump right into it, Frank. What's going on? I know the amazing work you are doing right now with the United Way up in Greensboro. Just talk about that, and let's get started on that.
Yeah, so sure. So again, thank you for having me, Jerome. It's great to see you. Hope all is well up in the Big Apple.
Much no.
Yeah. So like you said, I have the privilege of working for the United Way. And most major cities have a United Way, and we're connected, but we are all very different.
Right.
So the United Way of Greater Greensboro has a focus of addressing poverty in our community. And so our goal is to figure out solutions, determine the root causes, and then figure out what the solutions are to address poverty in our community. So as you're well aware of, there are so many people out here who are struggling.
Yes.
And many are not struggling because of any cause of their own.
Right. People
have been downsized from their jobs. They've lost their jobs because of the economy, specifically the pandemic. And then, as you might imagine, a lot of those people look like me and you.
Yes.
And I tell anybody, I think if you talk to most American families are one, if not two paychecks away from being broke.
Right.
So if you miss one or two good paychecks, things are probably going to change a little bit.
Right.
So imagine being out here, maybe with not a whole lot of education, not a lot of skill training, and you need somebody to help guide you. You need some help. You're not necessarily looking for a handout, but you're looking for some direction.
Right.
And you're looking for people who are truly interested in trying to help you elevate yourself to a level of self-sufficiency. So that's what we do at the United Way. So you mentioned, the investments that we make, and we have a lot of great organizations, nonprofits, and privately owned and publicly owned companies who are embedded or totally entrenched in this community, who want to do what they can to try to help people. And so our job is to try to figure out who they are, what they can do. And we're real big on measuring results. So don't just tell us what you can do. We want to see the end result.
I love that, Frank.
So it's a lot of fun. I come home every day feeling like, yes, I've done something good to try to help my fellow man.
That's great, Frank. And like me, we were in financial services together.
That's right.
So what led you to out of financial services? But I guess in a way, this is financial services, but in a capacity.
Different kind of way. Yeah, it's a different kind of way. So Jerome and I worked together in Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Yeah, good old Charlotte, North Carolina.
Love it.
Several years ago for a financial services firm, and Jerome, I'll let you say the name if you choose to. I won't say the name, but we worked for a financial services firm, and so my whole career had been in financial services. But what I was doing on the side is I was, as you could tell, was I've made sure that I've been engaged in the community in which I lived.
Right.
So I'm always involved in some type of community activism, whether it be something on the ground floor or fortunately maybe sitting on a board for some pretty big nonprofits or other type organizations, because that's really where the decisions are being made.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that, but that's where it is. And so what I realized is that I was enjoying that part of my life more. Financial services is good for your wallet, no doubt about it. Let's not get that confused. But I do think you get to a point in your life when you say, hey, am I in this thing for the right reasons?
Right.
And I think I got to the point where I said, hey, where's your heart? Where can you have the greatest impact? Where are you most needed, perhaps?
Yeah.
And I felt that I was really having a better impact in that nonprofit sector. So what other nonprofits better to go to than the largest one in the world? And that's the United Way. So I was fortunate enough to gain employment there. I've been there for a number of years now, surrounded by a lot of like-minded people who care about the community in which they live. And so, again, I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to work for my United Way.
I love that, Frank. Now, you talk about how you've always been community-minded, involved in the community, and that allows me to shift and talk about your dad, who is honored in history, as he should, for what he's done, the mark he's made on civil rights movement. The Honorable Mr. Franklin McCain. Frank, talk about his influence on you becoming community minded. Me personally, it's my mother who instilled that in me. She never had to say to do it, but seeing her, naturally, that was something that I decided to do. How did that impact you with your dad being who he was?
Yeah, so just to make sure the sort of level set for your audience. You mentioned you got a lot of Greensboro people on here, and I would imagine there are a lot of Aggies on here.
A lot.
So they obviously Aggies nationwide. I'm sure probably outside of Greensboro as well. But we know the story well, and most of the nation knows the story. But let me just give you a quick recap for those who don't.
Please do.
My father, the late Franklin McCain Sr., along with 3 other college freshmen who attended North Carolina A&T State University, the North Carolina State University, on February 1st, 1960, went down to the Woolworths 5 and Dime store in Greensboro, North Carolina, and took a seat at the lunch counter. And for your younger viewers, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it was in a time where Blacks were not allowed to sit down at the lunch counter and order anything, coffee, water, nothing at all, but you could buy things in the store.
Yeah.
And so you and I both know that makes absolutely no sense, but that's the way the world was at that time.
Right.
But what my father and those other 3 gentlemen decided is that they no longer wanted the world to be like that, and they were not going to accept the status quo. As my father would say, that when he was growing up in Washington, D.C., in Southeast Washington, D.C., his mother used to tell him that he and his siblings that the best thing they could do was to go to school, get an education. They can be whatever they wanted to in this world. father said growing up, he believed that. It wasn't until he moved down south to come to A&T that it became clear to him that that was not necessarily the case. It was two different worlds.
Right.
It was the world that consisted of Black folks, and then it was all others.
Right.
All others determined the lay of the land. And so my father said that his mother had sold him what he called a big black lie. And that black lie was that, you could be whatever you wanted. And he said that's not the case. So those four gentlemen became known as the A&T Four. Some people call them the Greensboro Four. But they sat down on February 1st, 1960 to protest in a nonviolent way the wrongs of the world at that time as they saw it, especially around the desegregation of public accommodations. And they chose the Woolworth's lunch counter intentionally,
Right.
For a lot of different reasons. We won't go into that.
Uh-huh.
What I want to remind people of is that, we're talking about college freshmen. And so as a college freshman, my father had just turned 18 years old. Like,
Yeah.
Young people.
Yes.
Decided that they weren't going to wait on someone else to try to affect change. They were going to go ahead and take a position, take a stance, and they put their lives on the line,
Right.
so to speak, and went down there and sat at that lunch counter. So growing up in a house with a father who was a civil rights activist,
Mm-hmm.
And then with a mother who was an educator. And, it was interesting for me and my brothers because we were often challenged, and we were challenged in a lot of different ways. We were forced to become self-sufficient.
Right.
So there was nothing that was inside of the house or outside of the house that we didn't learn how to do.
Right.
So there was nothing in the house that we couldn't do, and there was nothing outside of the house we couldn't do. And we had to work.
Right.
We had to work. Nothing was given to us. Now, yes, we were afforded some luxuries that I know some families were not. But trust me, we worked really hard for a lot of what we got. But one of the things that we were taught is that we should never think more of ourselves than we did our neighbor,
Right.
fellow man or our fellow woman.
Right.
And it is our responsibility to not sit on the sideline and point a finger and say what's wrong and say that somebody else needs to fix that. My father believed that if you did that, then you were part of the problem. And so that's kind of the mindset we kind of all adopted along the way. And they encouraged us to not become civil rights activists and look for the type of notoriety that my father and those three gentlemen achieved, because that wasn't what it was all about.
Yeah, that's never what it's about.
Yeah, that's not what it's about. Activism, could be in the neighborhood level, city level or whatever, but it's really about identifying an issue, a problem, and then also calling a wrong when you see it and not being afraid to say so. But my father believed that if you're big enough to call a wrong, then you also need to be big enough to figure out what the solution is. And so I've tried to, and my brothers have too as well. We've tried to sort of live our life that way. I personally believe that all of us were put on this earth for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
All of us have skill sets that the good Lord has blessed us with.
Right.
I think I always see it as an opportunity when I meet someone new to learn about them, because what I find most often is that there's always something unique about that person. And somebody always has something to contribute to help you in your own life. But then on the flip side, you generally have something that you can offer people as well. So I've always tried to live my life that way.
Awesome. I love that. And you touched on something I think is vitally important to talk about. And I'm saying this knowing that for this month, we've done, and you and I talked about it, by Black History Month, where our young people who are entrepreneurs talk about a historical figure and also shift and change and talk about their business. Um, I've been intent in everything that I say, think, and do about us meeting young people where they are instead of young people meeting us where we are. How do you feel about that term, especially to because it's a different world than what you and I grew up in, a
Oh yeah.
different world than what your dad grew up in, and so
Oh
forth.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think you make a valid point. You and I are in the same generation, so I'm sure some of the things that cause me reason for pause. Well, I know they cause you pause as well.
Yes, absolutely.
We've talked about it,
Yeah.
but what we have to realize is that yes, these young people have grown up in a different type of environment. My father used to talk a lot about how he really loved and respected the young people because he felt like young people had not been tainted by all the evils of the world.
Wow.
They came with a very pure perspective and
Yes.
fresh perspective on things. And so I didn't understand it when he used to say that when we were growing up, but now I understand it a little better. And I kind of agree. But I also think that young people still need people like me and you
Absolutely.
and others who are on this call to help guide them and help them see some things that they don't necessarily see or think about. You look at the civil rights movement. You look specifically at the lunch counter sit-ins. My dad and those three guys didn't just wake up one day and decide they're going to walk down the FW Woolworths. That was something that was really thought out and was very strategic.
Right.
They thought about what do they want the end game to be.
Mm-hmm.
End game is that what we want to do is we want to get this thing jump started. We want this thing to spread across the nation. We want other young people, other boys and girls like themselves to join in this movement. And so let's figure out how to do this. And so I think these young people today have the same capabilities. And actually they have a larger platform. Back in the 1960s, we didn't have what's this StreamYard. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have Twitter.
Right.
So things spread it by word of mouth. If you're fortunate enough to have a television, you heard it on television, or you might have heard it on the radio, but that takes time.
Right.
Now you can hear things instantaneously.
Right.
So why not encourage young people to use the platforms that exist for them to do something positive, to influence change, and to not only elevate themselves but elevate their people,
right,
and the nation as a whole. So I think their possibilities are unlimited. So I really always try to encourage young people, but I also, I tell them things like, is it hard for you to hear your radio? Because, I'm at the gas pump 3 pumps away from you and I can hear every vulgar word on your radio. Do you really need to play your music like that? Well, what's the reason?
Yeah.
Or why are you walking around with your pants hanging down where I'm seeing you?
That's a big one for me, Frank.
Stuff like that, I can't be quiet.
Yeah.
But I also have to know my place. And so, my place is, I can be an enforcer with my own children.
Yes.
They were growing up, but I have to be mindful that, these other young people have parents as well and people they respect. But I just feel like sometimes you just have to step in and just say something.
I agree. And I haven't learned, and it's so funny that you talk about enforcer. I was talking because my mother was a domestic violence survivor. That's in me, and some of the time I'll find myself in situations. There was one I don't know if I had ever told you about this if you would still we were working together, but my neighbor, her and her boyfriend got into a fight. He throws her out of the house. She has no clothes on. All I just said to the guy, I came out and I said, bro, at least let her put some clothes on. Frank, he pulled a gun on me, you know, and that what bothered me is, yeah, he pulled the gun, but then 3 months later, he was right back at the house. Because I literally said to him, where I come from, if we pull it out, we use it.
Right.
Next thing I know, in the community, so he ran back inside.
Yeah.
Later, Frank, he's back at the house. So my wife was like, yeah, you're right about knowing that spot that we could be in. And you know, 2020, Frank, was a beast of a year. We had what I call multiple pandemics. We had the pandemic of police brutality. We had the pandemic of racial disparities in healthcare that came from the pandemic. We had police brutality. Like, man, I have yet to see the full video of the cop on George Floyd's neck. I just can't. How were you affected in 2020, and how was your work affected, if it was at all, in 2020?
Well, that's a huge question. So let me I do want to say a couple things about that. So I am a man of faith. I grew up in a Christian home and still practice Christianity. And so I believe in God.
Yes.
And I believe a lot of time God sends messages in ways that we don't always expect him to send it. And sometimes we're willing to receive it and sometimes we don't. And I really, when I look at it in its totality, all of what you just highlighted, you think about it. You think about somebody like George Floyd, for example, or Breonna Taylor. But let's just talk about George Floyd, because I think, so, you look at George Floyd. George Floyd is somebody you nor I probably ever would have known, heard his name, nothing at all.
Right.
And I'm sure when George Floyd's mother gave birth to him, she didn't realize the type of effect he would have on a nation. And what I mean by that is that because of George Floyd's death, no, not his death, because of George Floyd's murder, and this pandemic, the pandemic allowed a lot of people to be home, and either working from home or at home because they were furloughed or laid off or for whatever. But most homes, the TV's were on. And in my house, we watched a lot of CNN. So for us to be home allowed us to see what wasn't necessarily anything new.
Right.
But it allowed us to physically be able to see it for ourselves, from the beginning to the end.
Right.
And that, to me, was a wake-up call to watch another Black man who looked like me, who could have been me or could have been my son, could have been your son.
My son, yeah.
My brother, could have been, well, maybe not my next door neighbor, but but it could have been someone who I had, I had a long-standing relationship with. That could have been them.
Right.
And so, so what it says is that what would make people think, and then you have people who supported this, who called this justifiable in so many ways, including our most highest office of the land at that time, who didn't see anything necessarily wrong with what was going on.
Yeah.
But something was wrong.
Yes.
And when you think about it, it takes me back again to things that my father used to talk about that they used to experience in the 60s. It's all of it was happening all over again.
All over. Yes.
And the sad thing about it is we sat on the sidelines and let it happen. Because we got complacent. We got these great little jobs at the financial services firm. I'm getting a check every 2 weeks. I got a nice
house. Nice
house. Oh, I live in a great neighborhood. These things don't happen on my side of town. But we need to move away from that. And I think God was shaking us and saying, look, folks, people have died, blood, sweat, and tears so that you can go vote.
Yeah.
So now you got your people talking about, well, I'm not going to go vote because I don't like either one of the candidates. Just about how stupid does that sound? I mean, really, about how dumb is that? I think I can't remember who it was. It might have been Oprah who said something like, well, guess what? Neither one of these candidates are planning to come to your house and have Sunday dinner. So you're not going to be friends with either one of them, but one of them is going to be your president. Regardless. So a no vote is a vote.
Is a vote, yes, correct.
So I'm not gonna be on your show, and I'm not gonna tell people how I think they should vote, because I think people should vote the way their conscience leads them to vote.
Right.
What I will say is that I do take issue with people who take the position, for example, in this last election, when they take a position that that it's not clear that it's one side who really, really just doesn't care about people of color. I mean, I just don't see how you have to be Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, all wrapped up into one package not to be able to see that.
Clearly.
I'm telling you. And so I take issue with that.
Right.
And I've never taken issue with anyone who's a Democrat or a Republican or an independent, because I think you should be who you want. But I do believe that when there is a person or a party who is supporting the separation of people, creating a divisive environment, supporting blatant racism, and you think it's okay and you want to align yourself with that group, then you're just probably not my kind of people.
Right.
And it doesn't take me long to figure that out. And that's one thing about Aggies. I know people talk about graduates of North Carolina A&T, but I'm going to tell you, A&T is a phenomenal, phenomenal place. It's a promised land in so many ways. I mean, some of the best people in the world have gone through those doors, and I've just created some of the greatest relationships in my life as a result of having gone to that school. But one of the things we really learn is about the struggle of our people. And we learned about how to think independently,
right,
not following the flow, being leaders rather than followers. I mean, you think about, people like, my dad, who was a member of the A&T-4. You think about Ron McNair, who was a graduate of A&T, who was on the Space Challenger shuttle that blew up. You think about Terrence J. You think about Jesse Jackson Sr., Jesse Jackson Jr., Congressman Alma Adams, as an A&T graduate, Michael Reagan, who just got appointed as director of the U.S. Department of Environmental Protective Services. I mean, these are people who are out here truly making a difference, and they're not losing themselves in doing so. They know who they are, and they know they don't only just represent themselves. They are where they are on the backs of so many people who look like me and you, who died for us to have some of the opportunities that we have. And so one of the things we've got to do is we've got to make sure that our own children don't lose focus, and they don't think that just sort of got here through, some path that they just created on their own. One of the things my father used to say, and I'm gonna shut up for a second because this is your show, not mine.
No, please don't.
But
I love the stories about your father, so please.
But one of the things, so when I think about in my house at dinner time, my father had this rule that we could not have dinner until everybody got home. And as we got older, that became problematic because everybody was on different schedules.
Right.
So sometimes it'd be 6:30 when we were able to eat dinner. Sometimes it'd be 9:00 when we were able to eat dinner because that's when the last person got home. But the reason for it, in his mind, was that was family time. That was the one time we were going to all come together and talk about what was going on in the family, what was going on in our community. And it was also his time to pull out the Reader's Digest and make us take a vocabulary test.
Really?
Crazy. Crazy. But one of the things I remember my father saying, and I'll clean it up because he didn't say it this nicely. He said, don't trust any man who tells you, and any man or woman, who tells you they got somewhere on their own and nobody ever helped them.
It's BS.
He said, when you meet a person like that, you need to run as fast as you can because that person is delusional and has issues. And I'm gonna tell you, he could not be so right. I have met some people on the way that talk about what I've done, and I'm like, you didn't get here by yourself. And so you have a responsibility to try to help someone else. So I am not so proud or excited about the fact of what you've accomplished. I'm happy for you because I'm glad to see people progress. I want to see people do well. But my question to you is who have you brought along the way?
You help. Amen.
Yeah, who have you helped?
Amen.
I'm not impressed if you just landed this and don't tell me I'm the only Black person in senior management in my company. Well, then you need to be raising hell with your company.
Come on, Frank.
That's what you need to be doing. So don't tell me about it. I don't want to hear it.
I love it.
I want to hear it. You are a failure. That's what you are. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. So if you haven't reached back and try to help groom a next generation, this is what I tell young people now that I talk to. Going back to the North Carolina A&T Stadium, it's one of the best career placement service centers in all of the college universities in the country, white or Black. Companies come to A&T to recruit students. I tell students, when you are fortunate enough to get a job at some of these great companies, you are not only just representing yourself, you're representing your family and you're representing our university. And what you're doing is you're either opening the door further for more students like you to be, regardless of whether they went to A&T or not, but more students to look like you to come in, or you're narrowing that door, closing it. And we're saying, well, Frank McCain, he's a complete idiot. Doesn't come to work on time. He's not prepared. He's not an effective communicator. He can't write. I mean, they're not going to come back and get anybody from your school.
Exactly.
You have a responsibility.
And Frank, I don't know.
Work on yourself.
I don't know if you knew this fact, but this year, for historically Black colleges, the enrollment for HBCUs has been at record highs. I don't know if you knew that.
I did.
And for me, it is so warming. And I'll be honest with you. I talk about all the time, my wife and I. If I had to do over again, I would have went to college at a historically Black college because representation is huge. It really is. To be able to see someone who really understands you and looks like you up there teaching you is monumental. And that's something that I just did not have in my education. And I marvel at those of you, and I have so many friends who went to the A&Ts, the Morehouses, the Spelmans,
Right.
so
Right.
many historically Black colleges, and to see Howard, like, I mean, Howard, everybody's going Howard crazy now with vice president. I just think it is so powerfully amazing. So that allows me to kind of shift and talk about your family, Frank. Let's talk about your beautiful family, all that's going on, wherever you want to start. What's going on with your family, brother? Because I haven't seen your daughter since, and I don't even know how many years ago it was that we drove from Charlotte to Greensboro to take our daughter to a concert, and you were taking your daughter, and we met up at your house. And like I said it to you offline, you warned me when your daughter gets up and starts going crazy over these boys, Jerome, I need to be still. Because Frank, you know I ran up there on them boys.
Oh man, I tell you. Well, I always believe in keeping it real, and I always kept it real with my kids, And I told my wife, I used to tell her, I said, hey, look, they're a product of both of us, so we kind of know what's inside of them.
Right.
So it's in them, and so let's just go ahead and kind of shape it and mold it the best we can, and just pray for the best. And so, my family has been interesting. I have been just blessed beyond measure. I really have. My wife Vicky and I are very proud of the kids. You remember them when they were very, very small children. My daughter Taylor now owns her own firm, a firm called Lead Firm, where they do leadership development for universities around the country. She along with a guy by the name of Jared Benjamin started this company a few years back, and a large amount of success. She also is the COO of a minority-owned company called RAP Snacks, RAP Snacks, owned by a guy by the name of James Lindsay. And they have potato chips and oodles and noodles and wine and all sort of variety of snacks that they distribute around the country, stores like Walmart and things like that. So she's down in Florida doing extremely well. Very happy for her. She just a good person. Still daddy's little girl,
of course.
And then but I could not, unfortunately, convince her to go to A&T. She decided that she wanted to be a Tar Heel, so she
okay.
And that's all fine,
right?
Because the world is about choice,
right?
So, but we did have one. My wife, is a graduate of A&T as well. But my son Mac just graduated from A&T with his master's.
Love it.
He got his undergraduate and his master's degree from A&T, and he is currently pursuing his dream of playing football at the next level. So he is training for the NFL draft come April. So hopefully April, I think it's April 29th is the draft. Let's pray that you hear them call Mac McCain from the North Carolina A&T University, making one of the NFL teams in the position of cornerback. And Vicky, last but not least, is still an accountant, but now has moved into ministry.
Mm-hmm.
She is a Presbyterian minister. So I, my friend, am the first dude. So can you imagine?
Not the Frank I know.
Can you imagine? But she's at a great church with a great congregation, and she was definitely called.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord has called me for a few things, but He hasn't called me to lead a congregation. I think He's called me to be supportive of her. Awesome. So that's kind of the role that I play, and I do it as well as I possibly can. So again, you know, we're just blessed and highly favored, and just thankful for not only the success that our kids are seeing in the realization of their dreams, but in all the people, the village that helped get them to where they are, because my wife and I could not have done it alone. There's so many people who have touched their lives and touched our lives along the way, and have made a difference in ways sometimes they didn't even realize it.
That's a blessing, brother.
Yeah, so you know, we're just very thankful for that, and that's how we should be as a people.
Right.
How the nation should be. Period.
Right.
But we as a people should definitely be that way. You know, our commonalities. You know, it's just really interesting. You know, again, I don't care if you meet folks from up north, the south, the Midwest. There's so much about us that's the same.
Yes.
Different.
Yeah.
You know, but I remember meeting you, and I said, this cat from New York or New Jersey, I don't know which one it is. Well, you know, he's talking about car and all this stuff. I'm like, what's a car? What's a car?
Oh, that New York accent, brother.
Oh, I tell you, I love it though. I love it. But that's a good thing. That's it's that's why I say it's so much you can learn from people.
Right.
And just to hear it, you probably came down south and thought everybody down here talks slow, move slow. But then you got here, you liked it a little bit.
No, I loved it, Frank. I cannot deny. Don't get it twisted. I love being back home in New York. But the people that I met and the friendships, the brotherhood and the sisterhood of people that I came into contact with, it is unbelievable. And, two of my 3 kids are still down in Charlotte right now.
Oh, great. Mm-hmm.
So it's still, Charlotte's always going to still be home, a home for me. North Carolina, I love it. I really and truly do. So let life slow down, and here I come right back, to be honest with you.
Come on back down here now. Just come on back. We'll be waiting on y'all.
And Frank, I don't know. I don't even know if you remember this. So one of my players, I had reached out to you a few years ago. He was moving into the Greensboro area, and he said, "Coach, do you know anybody you could get me in touch with?" And I gave him your name, and I reached out to you, and you were like, "When he gets here, tell him to reach out." But he actually went to High Point, so yeah, it was different. But you, for me, have always been someone that I could, come to. When I made the call last week for you to come on, I jumped for joy when you agreed to come through. I enjoyed our conversation, bro. We could have went on for hours.
We did kind of go for a little over an hour. Well, there was a lot to catch up on.
Yeah. So I'm always, I don't put judgment upon people from where you're from, right? I never do, and I just think it's so important that and that we do that. And one of the things that always intrigued me about you is you never led with who your father was. You always led with who you are as a man, as a colleague, as a professional. And that's something that always endeared me to you as a brother. It's never, you wear A&T everywhere you go.
It's in the blood. Aggie Pride is worldwide. Now we love our other HBCUs too. And so you brought up Kamala Harris. And so I want to give a shout out to HU. Howard should be very, very proud of their alumnus becoming the first Black woman vice president of the United States of America. We all should be proud. The whole world should be proud.
Yes.
But Howard people should be very, very proud.
Yeah.
And A&T are proud of her as well.
I know.
Very clear.
I didn't know until yesterday. I knew there was a statue on campus of your father and the other three men. I didn't even realize it was, I knew there was a statue. I didn't realize it was at A&T. And I was looking for it. I bought the stamps as well. I have the book of stamps with them on it.
Great.
As soon as I found out that they were being honored in that way, I ran to my post. I have them somewhere. So I just want to let you know that.
But you need to make sure you go to the other thing is that, part of the lunch counter that they sat in, part of it is at the Smithsonian Museum.
Been there, saw that.
You've been there, okay.
Yes, I have pictures. Trust me. Yes.
All right, good. Yes. I want to make sure.
Frank, I have a dream, right? That I can take young people to that museum. I could put something together, not only in New York, not only in North Carolina, 2 states that I love, that I've lived in, but all around this country, that we can put together a trip that our young people can go to this museum and they could see the history that is there. I've been there, and it's one of the things that it taught me as well as, and I already knew it in talking to my mother, our people are not meek people. Our people, even though we were enslaved, even though our very existence was stripped away from us, we fought like hell. We continuously fought for our freedoms. And I think to be able to go to that museum, it stirred something in me. It really, truly did. It spurred something in me, Frank, to even dig deeper about my where my family comes from, because I come from a family, we just never talked about it. So be able, it's something I've been doing and digging deeper and finding out where my people come from. So
well, the museum is a phenomenal documentary of our life. Of people of color, and I think it's a great representation of the different stages that we've come from. And I think young people in particular need to see that. Older people do too, but young people in particular, because as you've heard before, if you don't know your history, then you're likened to repeat it. Unfortunately, again, and I'm not trying to turn this into a political conversation, but I think we saw what happens when we sit idle or sit on the sidelines. People creep in the back door and sometimes even the front door. And we sat on the sideline and complacent, didn't pay attention, and we allowed this to happen. So hopefully these last few years have been a wake-up call for all of us, both white and black, and purple and green and red and whatever. We need to protect our country, and we need to create a society that is fair, equal, and just for all. And we can influence change. And so I applaud people like you who have decided that that you wanted to create a platform to support Black business. That's important. If we don't support Black business, then it's likely that others won't either. And
again, please, brother, please.
Exactly. Well, I liken Black business to historically Black colleges and universities. Some people believe that you receive an inferior education from a historically Black college or university, and that is just the furthest thing from the truth. Not only do you receive a great education, but you also become equipped to deal with society and the ups and downs of life. And then you not only receive a great education and be able to adapt, but you now have a family. Your family has been extended now. And so I know for me, there have been many times I could not have made it if I did not have that family support from my friends from school, that network, so to speak.
Yeah.
But but when you think about black business, we have to make sure that we are willing to support them in any way we possibly can. So we I think that sometimes we don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just ask people, just to be cognizant of the fact that there are opportunities around every corner in almost every community for you to support Black business. For example, I'm gonna give a couple shout outs on your
Please do. Please.
show. And these are local shout outs, but I want to just give you some examples. So, if you look at, all of us have automobiles or homes that we have to insure. So, it doesn't matter, you go to Allstate, go to State Farm, Nationwide, wherever, Aflac, I don't care where you go, but there's probably someone that looks like you who owns one of those agencies. So in this community, there's some people who own some insurance agencies, like in Greensboro, there's Terrence Williams that owns Allstate Insurance Company, and some other people, you've got Ursula Dudley Oglesby, whose family started Dudley Products, Black hair care company. There's a great Greek paraphernalia store here in Greensboro that ships nationwide called Greek Teak.
They're in the group.
Yeah, GREEKTIQUE and Legacy.
They are in this group. Yes, sir. Yes.
Great place. You can place orders and online they'll ship it to you. But you have all these other online businesses that people have started as well. Chalet Cameron that went to college with me at A&T, started a jewelry business online.
I love it. Yes.
So many. I can't just name all the people, but we have to support one another. Now, I do believe Black business now, we have a responsibility to represent our businesses in the best way too. So, if you're out here, we should not be asking you for a discount. We shouldn't be asking you for anything.
Say that, brother.
But we should have the expectation that the quality of your merchandise and the level of your service is going to be that I could, get on the other side of town.
Right.
So there's a two-sided street. But I also think we have a responsibility to talk to each other, communicate, if you go to a Black business and something isn't right for whatever reason, I mean, how many times have you been to other stores and things aren't right? It happens all the time. But don't just all of a sudden just say, I'm not going to do it. Think about all the people of color who are physicians and attorneys. Who knows better about the ills of a Black man speaking, than a Black urologist might know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, let's try to support us where we can. I'm not trying to promote any level of discriminatory practice. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that there are people out here who look like us, who are trying to make honest livings, who have products that we need, want, and do buy. And why not look at them first?
Exactly.
I think we have a responsibility to do that.
And you stole my question. So
no,
that's okay. But no, Frank, I mean, some of the things you touched on, I need to, me as well as my co-founders, we're intentional about certain things when it comes to when you talk about service, right? Because that's the if people don't give good service, well, give them feedback, right? And if they don't correct it, then maybe they're just not worthy of your dollar, but that doesn't mean you should not try to find another Black-owned option.
That's exactly right.
Because not everybody is worthy of your dollar, but most importantly, something you said is we've been going to businesses that don't treat us right, that don't look like us for 400 years. We've given them 400 years of grace.
Right.
We can give our own just as much grace. I'm not saying we should accept garbage, please.
That's exactly right. That's right.
Know that. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying,
Right.
if we could give grace to people that don't look like us, and
Mhm.
Frank, one of the reasons why I started this platform is, like you, in financial services, we've both worked with wealth clients, and those wealth clients use their wealth in ways to support politicians and policies that seek to keep our communities oppressed.
That's exactly right. We saw it. We saw it with our own eyes.
We saw it. We did, and they they did it in such a way that we, maybe you and I did, but our people did not realize what was going on. For example, by going into Home Depot and making the CEO of Home Depot rich, but yet he contributed to someone's campaign that was not in our best interest. Maybe we didn't realize it until 2020, when we all had the opportunity to sit down and think about it.
Yeah.
Now, what and I'm fully aware, Frank, that we have habits of our people we're going to have to change. We're going to have to change some spending habits. We're going to have to change some mindsets around certain things. And I'm going to be real with you. It's been 7 months, 8 months, 7 months. Frank, it hasn't been easy, but I am so enjoying the process, because those who want to do this and do this the right way, the love that they bring along with doing it, I'm trying to create a community, right? Where we can not only take these businesses and grow, but we can create things where we buying real estate, build schools, where we can give scholarship opportunities to our young people. This is, so what you see with Buy Black, it's just the ground floor.
Right.
There's a whole building I seek to build with our people.
Yes.
And I'm loving the process right now. And I think you everything you said, I kid you not, I could send you video of the things you said are the things that I've been saying. So I thank you for that, brother.
Oh, you're welcome. And I would like to add, Jerome, I think that that there is value and potential, there's value and the possibility for enormous growth if businesses were to get to know more about one another and what services they provide.
Yes.
Look for potential partnerships.
Yes, sir.
Some things don't need to be sold or marketed in isolation. I think your platform, of Buy Black, on your platform, or your social media platform, allows people now to go in and see what's out there. And I would encourage business owners to go out there and see who else is out there. For example, if you're selling jewelry like Chalet is, who I talked about earlier, or if you're selling Greek paraphernalia or things like that, like Francis Jackson at Greek Teak and Legacy's doing, maybe there are other stores around the country that are doing the same thing. And you're not necessarily in competition with one another, but maybe it's a way you can partner with one another to where both of you come out on the winning side of it. And so I say, just think outside of the box.
Yes, sir.
And don't always look at each other as opposition or competition, but possibility for collaboration and growth and advancement for your companies. I think you'll find that there's some things out there that people could work together on and really create value for all involved.
And I'll just use your word, collaboration over competition.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because Frank, I just feel deeply in my soul and spirit, and we're about to wrap up. I feel deeply in my soul and spirit that if we're all not winning, then none of us are winning. And
I agree.
I believe that deeply in my soul. I'm seeing wins from people who are about collaboration. I'm seeing people who are struggling, who are about individualism in the way that they present themselves within this group, within this community. They don't find wins, and it's
Right.
unfortunate. I want them to win, but when you have that singular focus about you, then it
No,
can't win. So
no.
I'm loving.
And people, yeah, people see through that too. At least
Yeah, they do. They,
I think.
you know, I
I
know. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I'm,
So,
I'm ready for it. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
My first question is, how is that
Mhm,
serving the community that you are a
mhm,
part of? Like,
mhm.
they want
That's right.
something. Okay, great.
Mhm,
Tell me, and I'd be glad to listen how that
right.
serves the community. And unfortunately, on more times than not, I don't
Mhm,
get a response. So
right.
that
Right.
tells me where their head is at. But
Yeah.
Frank, my
Well,
brother,
you keep doing what you're doing.
I'm listen. It's all God's guidance. All God. I'm not
Yes.
going to take credit for what has happened. I'll just take credit for the fact that God is using me as a vessel to be able to reach people.
Mhm,
99 countries, Frank. I wish you could just see behind the scenes some of the amazing things that we're hearing from the continent in Africa, how appreciative that they are that they have the ability to do business with their brothers and sisters here in the U.S. It is so
mhm.
powerful. I'm just going to give you, my brother, the last words. Any last words that you want to impart upon our community, our people, your community, whoever it may be, brother, please.
Yeah, so I'll end first of all about saying thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come on the show and talk about the legacy of my father and my family, and
Love,
and to really to have a platform on this type of program that really talks about um, a way to elevate people, specifically our people.
yes, sir.
And this is a platform to elevate people out of poverty.
Yeah,
I would say to you that, for those of you who are listening now or even listen to it later, um, small, medium, or large entrepreneurs, I applaud you, number one, for taking the risk, for stepping out there on faith, deciding that you want to do, you want to create a legacy of your own for you and your family. I just encourage you to stay the course. I would say that for those of us who don't have businesses, that it doesn't mean it's not in us, because I think we all have some level of creativity and see opportunities, but we don't always decide we want to address them or to take advantage of our thoughts. And I would just encourage you to step back. I think this pandemic time has now given people to think a little bit more,
yeah,
and giving you time to plan and maybe plot a course. And sometimes it's okay to go out there on your own. But again, sometimes maybe it's having a couple conversations with some people that you know about an idea that you have and how you might be able to, again, partner and create something that's really, really good. You don't have to always go it alone. So I just say have an open mind and support all business, but specifically support Black business, because if you don't, nobody else will.
wow, powerful, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you,
You
Jerome.
know, this platform, if ever you say, yo, Jay, I have this going on, can I use your platform?
Mhm.
You already know how it is, brother.
All
Please,
right.
all
Well,
right.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I
I love
appreciate
you,
you.
man. When I come
Love you
to
too.
Greensboro, I'm gonna give you a holla, attend church service when we get to go back in person. Um,
Well, you
to
you can you well let me put that out there since you brought it up. So my wife is on Facebook Live and on YouTube. Go to Presbyterian Church of the Cross. Presbyterian Church of the Cross on Facebook or YouTube any Sunday, 11 a.m. We'll be glad to have you.
I
And
love.
that comes from the first dude.
Bye bye for life. You understand why me and this brother have connected. I mean, from I call it call. But we connected
Pecan. Frank, what kind of car is that?
Man, leave me alone. You see the love that I have for this brother and why it's genuine. We are about the same thing, young people, our people, and support him, support Black business.
Yes.
Support his wife's church, especially if you're in the Greensboro area. I already know that you know, but please support. And Frank, I love you, bruh. I'll be in touch. So much more to come for both of us.
Right.
Love to the family. Praying for Mac. I'll be watching.
Please do.
Bruh, I'm gonna watch the whole draft. Right?
Please do. Mac McCain.
We don't know where he's gonna drop. You know, but he. Let me ask you. Now that I say that, what if he becomes a Dallas Cowboy?
Hey, you would love that, wouldn't you?
What? I don't know. I don't watch it.
He wants to go anywhere where they want him. So if they want him, he's interested in going.
If he ends up in New York, I will make sure to look after him.
Well, we appreciate that.
First time he comes through, if you're not there, I'll pick him up at the airport, show him around.
We appreciate that.
And I mean that sincerely.
I know you do. I know you do.
I will be right there to show him around and help him with whatever he needs. If I can't get it for him, I know people that will. So you are family to me. Your son, I'm praying for him. Your daughter,
thank you.
Praying for her. Thank you. I hope she'll participate in what I had asked her to be a part of.
Yes.
I'm loving everything that you do. Let's keep doing what we do, brother.
Thank you, Jerome. Have a good one, brother. Be blessed.
Same, brother. Be safe.
All right. Peace.